Well, we are creating a brand new, wonderful world, a world in which people like Sam Brinton can be employed by the federal government, and we can all pretend that everything is totally normal when a person who engages in puppy play demonstrations is the head of the dispensation of nuclear waste in the United States. Well, sad story for Sam Brinton, who, by the way, it turns out may in fact be one of the world's worst liars. I mean, aside from the fact that this human male pretends that he is a gender non-binary person who dresses in women's clothing while wearing a beard and engaging in puppy play publicly. Not embarrassing at all for the United States, by the way. Perfectly normal behavior, totally normal. Now, it turns out that this human, as a couple things about this particular human. This particular human, one, declared that he was a victim of conversion therapy, but it's now turning out that that was crap, that he can't name the person who actually attempted to, quote unquote, convert him. He refuses to name the organization. Even people in the gay community are now looking at Sam Brinton going, we have no evidence that what you're saying is true. It also turns out that this human who claims that he is non-gender binary, so ladies have at it. Apparently, Sam Brinton, he just has a habit of stealing other people's luggage. So there's another story about this person. According to the New York Post, a Biden Energy Department official who allegedly stole a woman's suitcase from a Minneapolis airport in September has been accused of another luggage heist at a Las Vegas airport. Oh no. Well, as I said before, when you saw the original story, it's pretty clear this person is a habitual crazy person who steals people's luggage routinely. Have you ever accidentally stole somebody's luggage and then not returned it and then wore people's clothes out of it? Is that a thing that you'd normally do? A felony warrant on grand larceny charges was issued for Sam Brinton, the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Spent Fuel and Waste Disposition at the Department of Energy's Office of Nuclear Energy. Brinton, who made history as one of the federal government's first gender-fluid officials, which is like saying made history as one of the federal government's first human octopi. There's no such thing as a gender-fluid individual. That does not exist. Gender-fluid is a made-up term for people who act in quote-unquote non-stereotypical ways, but he is still a human male. He is not gender-fluid. He's just a very confused human. Apparently, Sam Brinton allegedly stole luggage from another traveler at Harry Reid International Airport in Vegas on an unknown date, according to the outlet. Details about the alleged theft are scarce, but 8 News Now stated that Brinton, 35, was charged with grand larceny with a value between $1,200 and $5,000. The energy official, who uses they-them pronouns, reportedly has sticky fingers for suitcases. Or sticky octopi tentacles. Unclear. Brinton was placed on leave from the Department of Energy after they were charged with... I do love that our media, because they've decided to engage in this widespread game of pretending along with delusions that you can be a plural, that a person who is obviously a nut, I'm sorry, this guy's a nut. This is not just because this is a person who wanders around wearing women's clothing in public while also wearing a beard and lipstick, but also because this person has engaged in puppy play demonstrations in front of other humans. And also because this person is stealing luggage. But we have to pretend that it is perfectly sane and rational for everyone to pretend along with this human that he is actually multiple humans called they-them. This will never stop being amusing to me. That our media, who are so invested in objective truth, refuse to say things that are objectively verifiable, like it's a dude. Anyway, Brinton was placed on leave from the Department of Energy after they were charged with felony theft. Both of them were charged with felony theft for reportedly snatching a woman's Vera Bradley suitcase from baggage claim at the Minneapolis-St. Paul airport on September 16th, according to court documents. The suitcase and the women's belongings inside it were valued at $2,300. Brinton initially denied taking the luggage, later claimed they mistook it for their own bag at baggage claim despite never having checked a bag before the flight. That is a bad defense. If you're going to steal somebody else's suitcase, at the very least, ship yourself an empty suitcase and pretend that you confused it. Genius working over here. They allegedly removed the suitcase's ID tag after plucking it from the luggage carousel video surveillance showed. Apparently, Brinton still has not stepped down. So it will be amusing to watch the Biden administration have to fire this particular human being. Things are going well at the federal government level. We have set up such amazing moral standards for ourselves and destroying all of the fundamental bases of Western civilization. I'm sure that the rest of the superstructure will hold. Probably it'll be absolutely fine. Meanwhile, speaking of people who are fundamentally dedicated to destroying the superstructure of Western civilization, John Kerry. He is the climate envoy for the United States of America on behalf of Joe Biden. And John Kerry, he's apparently in negotiations with Joe Biden to continue in this job where he gets to fly on a private jet from place to place jabbering about the climate while emitting more carbon than pretty much any human being on Earth, not just from his jet, but also from his face, which is collapsing like a mudslide in the Hollywood Hills. Anyway, John Kerry, he was out there suggesting that what we really need is global redistribution of income in order to fix climate change. So he says the taxpayers should be tapped to pay for the climate transition. Not him. I mean, he's very rich, but because he married into wealth. He married the Heinz ketchup era, so that helps. So he's a Heinz carry. But anyway, he says the taxpayers should pay.
Is there going to have to be U.S. taxpayer money that helps the United States? Presumably the United States is going to have to be one of the nations that contributes to
Well, it'd be great if there were some. The United States of America proudly is the largest humanitarian donor in the world. Mm-hmm. Yes, we're the largest economy in the world, $22 trillion economy. The next closest to us is China at, 16 or so trillion? Mm-hmm. We have to step up to lead.
We do. We have to step up to lead by spending all of... one of my favorite things about the people who insist that we have to pay for all the externalities of climate change is that we already have. Capitalism has enriched people at the bottom end of the spectrum enormously. And half of the world has been raised out of abject poverty since 1980. That is due to free trade and capitalism, powered by carbon-based fossil fuels. And now, the people who generated all that wealth are being called upon to double dip, essentially, to pay for, quote-unquote, climate redistribution. Like, why? Seriously, why? And this is a global, worldwide problem. China ain't going to pay for it. India ain't going to pay for it. I do love the idea from the left that if we just start handing out money, everybody else will suddenly start handing out money as though this is a pledge drive for NPR. That is not the way any of this works. That is not how international relations work. John Kerry, however, has been disappointed by the war in Ukraine, by Russia's war in Ukraine, not because of the Russian invasion so much, more because, the fact that it totally exposed that the entire Western economy is based on non-green energy, which is embarrassing for him.
To get too nitty-gritty, but obviously Russia is, a contributor on the methane side in the Ukraine war and all that.
Russia's one of the largest, and yes. Obviously there's a huge amount of environmental destruction taking place in the war, and that is setting us back. And the absolute, the illegality and the depravity of what has been taking place there. So nothing that I say is meant to somehow be a comparison to that process. Mm-hmm. That said, Ukraine has altered the dynamics of the transition that we were really ramping up to out of Glasgow.
Well, that's, clearly, this is the big problem right here. Meanwhile, the Democrats are trying to blame oil companies for lack of climate change, for lack of green energy. A report was issued on Friday from the Democrats on the House Oversight Committee saying major oil and gas companies have little intention of taking concrete actions to transition away from fossil fuels. Oh, you mean the people who make their money professionally from drilling for fossil fuels aren't going to transition away from that? I am shocked and appalled. The committee said it found Shell, Chevron, BP, and the American Petroleum Institute all made major investments in projects that would, quote, protect and entrench the use of fossil fuels, long past the timeline scientists say would be safe to prevent catastrophic climate change, despite making climate pledges. Rokana of California, Democrat, he says they're basically saying we're going to increase production, we're going to increase emissions, we're also going to be able to claim being this clean tech company, this green company, because we can take symbolic actions to make it look like we're in the climate fight. The cynicism was breathtaking, and it's been a successful PR strategy. Again, I'm confused. If you would like to generate green energy, why don't you found some companies that actually make efficient green energy? Alrighty, guys, the rest of the show is continuing right now. You're not going to want to miss it. We'll be getting into the House enshrining same-sex marriage. Plus, we'll be joined by Bishop Robert Barron. If you're not a member, click the link in the description and join us.